Today I'm going to be sharing some deeply personal things with you about what's been going on in my life the last couple years, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, and in the hopes that it is helpful to some of you watching out there. My story might have a few little low points in it, but I assure you I have some really exciting things to share with you about the future and where ultimately my content is going and what I'm going to be doing this next year. So I'll be talking about that a little bit later in the video. And I just ask that you'd give me a little bit of grace, as I don't need to tell you anything about my personal life at all, but this is a video that I've thought about making for the past year as I've been kind of struggling. And I know that there's other people out there, we don't have the same life, but there's all similarities between our lives and the different kind of problems and issues and struggles that we go through. So I guess I'll kind of start out with how I ended up in this place where I just felt unmotivated, uninspired, bouts of kind of laziness. And I think that all kind of stemmed from a sort of a place of kind of depression, I guess is what I would call it. So I've been at this journey of learning to grow my own food now since the summer of 2011, about 13 years ago, since I was 23 years old. I pretty much have dedicated my life to growing food, selling it to people. I market gardened for 6 years. I've done YouTube almost 7 years now, trying to teach people and, even warn people about the future and how important it is to grow our own food for health, for freedom. And now I've been homesteading for about almost 4 years now here in Tennessee. I took a permaculture design course about 9 years ago now. And that was actually how I first got introduced to Tennessee, because I did it here at a farm in Tennessee. That's one of the reasons why we ultimately ended up here, because we really liked it the first time. So I guess I'll just start, right after college, I was like, man, I do not want to be a part of this machine. I don't want to have to get a normal job. I'm somebody who smoked a lot of weed, did psychedelics, went down that whole path of trying to find truth in this world, and ultimately led me to discover that there is no truth in the world. There's only one place to find truth, and maybe I'll get into that in a little bit here. But so that kind of led me down past it. I got out of college and I was like, you know what, I got some money saved up. I'm just gonna go hang out with my friends in Big Bear, California, snowboard for the winter because I've got enough money saved. I did some construction to make some more money too. And that's what I did. And when I came off of the mountain, that's when went back and just lived with my parents as I was trying to figure out my next step. And my friend Jared Smith had recently started his own home garden. My family had already been looking into alternative health, distrust of the pharmaceutical industry. We had been going down that path a little bit, but the path we hadn't gone down is the food path and understanding how much poison is in our food. I read a book called Omnivore's Dilemma. Was it Food Inc.? That's a very famous documentary. So I started to learn about those things, and my friend Jared started growing his own food, and because we were best friends, we were talking about all this stuff, and he eventually did a nutrition course with IIN. And so he was learning a ton of stuff, and we were just always talking about that, and couldn't believe all these amazing things that we were learning about actually how the body can heal itself if you give it the right nutrition or you give it the right herbal medicines and ideas like this. And at 23, those were mind-blowing concepts to me, and it just made total sense too at the time. Like, yeah, of course, all these companies are just trying to profit off us and keep us sick, and a lot of the things that I think a lot of people have realized the last 4 years after the scamdemic. That's woken up a lot of people to how the world really works. But my awakening started even 15 years ago, learning about different things that people would call conspiracies, but people have now realized that they are not. And I hope you guys stick with me here. We're not going to go off into weirdo land here. This is just part of my story. So I started farming with my friend Jared, and we just fell in love with it. And we at that time, there were no YouTube videos. There was nobody teaching how to do farming. It was only in books. So we read the new organic grower Elliot Coleman's Market Gardening book, which is a classic book. Jean-Martin Fortier had his book out. Eventually Curtis Stone came out with his book and started his YouTube channel, and his YouTube channel is one that really helped me to learn how to make money growing my own food and market gardening. To make a long story short, I farmed with Jared, helping him begin his farm, and at that time we didn't know anything. We just knew that farming according to nature and following God's principles, and at that time I didn't believe in God, but we just could tell, it's quite obvious that there's a design to nature, and that mimicking that design, it's going to give us the ultimate results in terms of the health of our food, the health of our customers. So that was our focus. And so we were trying to be organic, and that's how we ran that farm. And after 2 years of that, I had a dream to travel and be in another country. I had, at 15 to 17, I worked at a golf course in San Diego, saved up all my money, and I wanted to go travel with that money. So I went to Japan, I went to a language school there. It was an amazing experience. I had my 18th birthday in Tokyo, and getting to travel and see how the rest of the world kind of lives, it just really kind of blew my mind and opened me up to, whoa, wow, maybe America isn't the freest country in the world, because I feel more free here in Japan. How crazy is that? I never would have expected that. And other things that you realize once you travel, which I think people are now realizing, a lot more people finally understand kind of what America really is. And not that, I love my country. I don't love the government, but traveling definitely it makes you wake up to a lot of different things. And, so ever since then, I really wanted to be able to live in another country, but of course, farming, you're not going to be able to do that. And at that time, I was probably around 25 years old, something like that. And I said, okay, I got to go do this. So ultimately that led me to South Korea, where I taught English for 2 years. I just continued studying, and that's when I read a book by Masanobu Fukuoka, and that's The One Straw Revolution. It's a very famous book. It's one that I recommended all these years to people to read, because that's about 100 years ago. This guy was doing natural farming in Japan, doing all sorts of cool things like growing rice with unflooded fields, just growing them in soil, no-till. So that really changed my perspective. That led me into permaculture and ecological design and holistic management and all of these different concepts that are pretty popular today, called regenerative agriculture, which it wasn't called that at that time. So when I came back to America, and I also, during that time, I met the woman who became my wife. So we traveled around Asia for a few months, and then we left, came here, and that's when we did a permaculture design course, learned natural building with cob, building how to build cob walls and buildings, and all the different permaculture design stuff that you learn in the course. After that, San Diego, that was kind of like, I didn't want to be an English teacher forever, right? So I wanted to go back to what I was doing, and living in the city for so long in Korea, I was like, I'm so sick of this. I just want to be back in nature. I want to grow food again. I want to farm again. So that's what I did. And I went back, I farmed with Jared for a little bit longer. And then my wife and I wanted to get our own place and all of that. It ended up working out that a family friend had an apartment, a small little granny flat essentially, and a big 1/3 acre backyard. And that's when I started Nature's Always Right, that market garden, and my YouTube channel. So I'm very thankful for that time and on all that learning that went on there. And eventually we wanted to get our own place. We saved up enough money. We worked 4 years straight, not, barely going out, barely seeing friends or family, because, as you know, farming and of course homesteading too, it keeps you separated from people quite a lot. You're just mainly around your family, which is, awesome. But at the same time, it is an abnormal life. And I've kind of had a little bit abnormal life my entire adult life. I've chosen very different paths than most of my peers. When me and Jared started farming, people were like, you're crazy. Like, what are you even, you want to do this weird type of agriculture? What's wrong with you? Now, it's totally accepted. It's pretty amazing to see the difference that's happened the last decade. And it's exciting seeing all these people now wanting to grow their own food, which I had been pushing for so long, and now it is happening at a much larger scale. So of course my dream always was to own land, to do this to do farming at a bigger scale, to raise animals, and we moved to Tennessee to find that land. And I've got videos describing how we chose that place and all that. But one of the things that we did want to do, this is pre-COVID, we were about to go to Japan and start filming with farmers in Japan and other places in Asia about 4 years ago. We were actually in Thailand and Korea in about February 2020. So before COVID came to America. I don't believe that it came anywhere. I just believe it was a rebranding of cold and flu season. And I'm trying to speak carefully here because to this day, you really can't talk about things in the complete way on the internet. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Just, this is for my story and for trying to explain to you guys how I arrived at this lower place in my life and how I got out of it and where I am now. So, that was something that was like a huge loss to us. We couldn't go visit my wife's family. I still haven't seen them in over 4 years because they shut down travel, freedom. And as we found out, and as I tried to tell people since in February, before it even came to America, the whole thing was a lie. It was a fraud. The subsequent injections that they forced people to take or coerced people to take were poison. And we know that for a fact now. The 9th District Court just ruled that it was not a V word. It is a treatment, essentially, a gene therapy. And a lot of people have died subsequently from taking this thing. It's very sad, but if you look at the excess deaths around the world, that's the cause of it. You may want to argue about that, but sorry, that is what it has happened. That is the truth. Your government does not like you. They hate you. They want to destroy you because ultimately they follow the god of this world, and that is Satan. And he doesn't want humans to thrive. He wants humans to be destroyed. He doesn't want us to find Jesus. He wants us to go down all these other paths that are total distractions that I was on my whole life up until about 5 years ago when I gave my life to the Lord. And if that, hearing that bothers you, please hang with me. Through COVID, I got pretty angry because, like I said, I probably woke up to being a truther or whatever you want to call it 15 years ago. And I'd been screaming at the top of my lungs for 15 years, trying to wake up my family, wake up other people, but no one would ever listen to me until COVID happened. Then millions of people have now woken up to the truth of what really runs our world and how things are really orchestrated within our governments and, this push towards globalism and total control and controlling the food supply, which is kind of the next big thing that is coming down the line. And so that really bothered me quite a lot, and it made me become more unloving towards people because I was just like, everyone's an idiot and they can't see it. How can they not see what this is? How are they going along? Why are they just submitting and consenting to doing all these different things that the government's telling us to do in the face of all the evidence? And, especially studying health and nutrition and all this stuff for so long, it was obvious to me that everything was total nonsense. But the majority went along with it. I was even surprised in Tennessee, or like America, we're supposed to believe in freedom, but everyone cut down other people and said, no, you better wear the mask and you better stay 6 feet apart and, absolute insanity. And that really set me down a path of just really being a misanthrope, I guess you might call it. Even more than maybe I already was, because I was already kind of, like I said, down this abnormal path of life, so different than other people in the way that I thought about so many things. And just the path that I took, I became an organic farmer, which that's not really a path to quote unquote success or making a lot of money and things like this. I kind of said, no, money isn't the most important thing. There's a lot more to life than just making money. I want to try to help people and make people's lives better. But because of all that, I was able to go down this path of animals, which I wasn't necessarily going to go down because I knew how much time and effort and all that it would take. I wouldn't be able to just leave my house and go on vacation or go travel like I had wanted. And so the last 4 years for me in farming have been all about raising animals. So, I did accomplish a lot in the last 4 years. I learned how to raise and butcher rabbits, chickens, pigs, sheep. I got to do all these neat regenerative techniques, building a silvopasture, cutting trees with a chainsaw, building a 7-acre high tensile fence. At this point, I've done most of the things in homesteading and farming, and I can drive a tractor. I've driven one for hundreds of hours now, doing Korean natural farming, like all these different alternative soil-based things, the Elaine Ingham stuff and compost teas and you name it. I've probably tried it, and I kind of came to the point of I've done everything now. I accomplished all my major life goals of owning land. I became successful on YouTube. I have a wife. I have a great family. I have some really great friends. I had all these things in life that equal success and happiness, right, to a lot of people. But ultimately, I was kind of left still feeling empty, I guess, in a lot of ways. And I think that was kind of because I made some different idols in my life that, the Ten Commandments says that have no other God before me. So I put other things ahead of God, even when I knew logically I shouldn't have done that. It just kind of creeped in over time, and I kind of had like a midlife crisis, I guess, if you want to call it that, and just felt like, I don't know what's next in my life. I don't have kids yet. Maybe I will someday, but without getting personal, it just hasn't happened yet, and I don't know if it will or not. I don't know what God has planned for my life, but I've just gotten to a place now where I think that God has been trying to humble me these last couple of years. That's why I ended up in this place, because I got into a place of more pridefulness, thinking that I was something really great, because hey, I knew it was a scam before everybody. I knew about the truth before everybody. I knew about regenerative farming and permaculture and all this stuff before everybody else did. And now look, everybody's into it, and it's the hip, cool thing. And I knew about it before everyone. So I started out in a very humble place when I started making my videos, and it just sort of creeped into me, to this becoming this pride point in my life, thinking that I'm so special, which is so wrong, because I'm not. And I think that God used the last couple of years as a way to humble me, and here I am. I'm telling you guys stuff that is quite personal and quite, you might not think bad things about me or whatever because I'm saying this, but it's okay, because we're all going to go through these different things in our life where you end up in a low point, or you end up in a bad attitude, or whatever sinful stuff that you're battling with. So ultimately, I just made so many of these material things become my ultimate thing that I was going for, I guess, or like thinking about, oh, my farm's going to last for a long time. But when you really get down to it in life, guys, we all die. Everything we ever worked for, every tree I ever planted, all the money, anything I even passed down, all of that is going to be gone someday. The farm won't be there anymore. This earth, ultimately, the sun is going to hypernova, right? It's gonna be destroyed someday. This whole place, all this material world is going to pass away, and there's no way to escape that. And I even thought, maybe, that having children, that's the most important thing that I could do. But even that, your children don't last forever. Your name won't last forever. Do you know the name of your great-grandfather or the great-great-grandfather? None of these things are worth striving for ultimately in life. We need to live a good life. We need to work hard. We need to do these things. But that is not the ultimate pursuit. The pursuit is really of truth. And what is truth? What do we know about the place that we exist? We know that we exist in a place that was created. It's kind of an unavoidable thing. Even if you believe in evolution, where did the original organic matter start from? The original single-celled organisms. Where did that come from originally? They have to come from nothing, ultimately. It can't just be material existing in existence forever, because that's not what we observe in the reality that we live in. There's entropy, right? It's a fact of physics that none of this stuff here is going to last. It's all going to go away someday. So you have to face that fact, and you have to realize, well, wait a second then. So then if all this is created, and if you've studied biology or nature in any deep sort of way, you can't really get around the fact that it is designed. And even Richard Dawkins in one of his books says that all of nature looks designed, but it isn't, because he wants to deny God forever. And if you go down that atheistic path, eventually you basically have to believe that we're either in a simulation or aliens brought us here or created us here. Okay, but if you go down that path, then who created the aliens? Okay, who is the creator of the simulation? It's this infinite regress that you can never get to the end of. And that's why ultimately you have to arrive at the answer that the creator of this world has to be outside of this world, has to be outside of time, has to be outside of space. Now that doesn't lead you to the God of the Bible necessarily, but it does lead you to the fact that there is a creator. You can't have a building without a builder. You can't have a painting without a painter. We know this intrinsically. And you can't have all this nature and this creation without a creator as well. And that's what God means, creator. And ultimately, this led me towards a pursuit of looking into the different world philosophies and religions and ideas. And if you look at all of them, they kind of break up into three different camps. Either you, and because of the fact that we're going to die, that's kind of the ultimate thing that we have to deal with. Death, and then is there life after death? Those are the big concepts that you have to wrestle with as a human being. So if you go more Buddhist, Hindu, New Age, there's reincarnation. You just kind of keep reliving and getting better at your life. You enter a state of nirvana, or because we're all a piece of the divine, we go back to being with, becoming God again and becoming one with Him again. And if you're Muslim, then you think that at the end of your life, God is going to weigh everything on a scale at the end, all of your good deeds and all of your bad deeds, and hopefully He has mercy on you and lets you into heaven. You can be an atheist and think that all of this is just by chance, and that there is no creator, and that at the end of this thing, everything just goes black and there's no more existence at all. So all of those ones in my mind, what it ultimately is the human being believing that they are God. So you decide what's right and wrong. That's what the atheist has to believe, essentially, is that morality is subjective, not objective. Because without a God, there is no moral standard. It really comes down to what our culture or what our own individual human mind deems is acceptable practice. So that falls apart pretty quickly, right? Because everyone knows intrinsically that murder and theft and all these things are wrong. There's certain things that are absolutely wrong. This idea of morality being that, well, then what? Okay, there is an objective right and wrong. There's some things that everybody's agreeing on that is right and wrong. Well, where does that law come from? And who gave us the law? If there's law, there's a lawgiver. Who is it that gives us this law? And if you look at this concept that I'm describing of, we all kind of just become our own God in a way. I mean, that's what we all want. That's what I wanted to be when I just kind of was an agnostic and just living my life, doing whatever I wanted. That led me to a place of realizing, like, what is the point of all this? Like, I'm just gonna die. This is stupid. Like, there is no real point to any of this. Like, just have as much material pleasure as you can and then die. But then if you do that, I'm 36 now, so I've lived long enough to realize that it's all a vapor, as the Bible calls it. This life is like a vapor. Everything it's like sand passing through your fingers. It's all like a dream, essentially. Like, if you think about past experiences that you've had, good or bad ones, it's almost hard to bring it back into your memory sometimes. Like, whoa, did that really happen? And if the lights just turn off at the end, even if you just experienced 100% good things, it still doesn't matter, because at the end it just shut off. So now it's as if it never happened. And if you look at this concept that I'm describing of, kind of we all kind of just become our own God in a way. I mean, that's what we all want. That's what I wanted to be when I just living my life, doing whatever I wanted. That's what I wanted to be when I just living my life, doing whatever I wanted. So And we all know deep down that that isn't it, that there is a life after this, that there is eternity that we're facing. And that leads you ultimately only the one unique world idea that's out there. And if you really look into the evidence, the Bible and Christianity and Jesus Christ is the only one that stands in the end. He's the only one that could ever save us. And we're all looking for a savior, if you think about it. What are all these movies about? All these superhero movies, right? It's all about someone more powerful saving you. And I think that that is because that's kind of built into the system, because we know ultimately we can't save ourselves. That if there is a moral law given by the creator, whoever that creator is, we've broken that law. And if we've broken that law, just like in the human world, there's a punishment for that, the breaking of that law, whatever it may be. And we've all done it, whether by deed or by thought. And Jesus took it to that next level, saying that if you've even looked at a woman with lust, you've committed adultery in your heart. If you hate your brother, it's like as if you've murdered him. And if you think of it more of like the Islam way, then it would be like, oh, if I put all my good works and all this, and I pray 5 times a day, and I go to the Kaaba and I circumvent it, and I do the pilgrimage, and then maybe God will accept me. But if you really get down deep into your own thoughts, your own desires, the Bible says that the heart is deceitful and wicked and continuously. It's something that we can't escape, almost like the way our flesh works. So knowing that you can't escape all these evil things that you want to do, there has to be a right way to live, but ultimately we're going to fail even if we try to live up to that standard. And that moral standard that God has is perfection, because He is perfect, He is holy, and we're not, and we can't achieve that. So what Jesus came to do, and He was a real person in history, almost every historian and scholar has to come to that conclusion. If you believe Alexander the Great or Hippocrates or any of these people existed, there's more written in manuscripts, ancient manuscripts about the Bible and Jesus than any other document, old ancient document that we have. So He did exist. And what it comes down to ultimately is, did He die on that cross? Did He rise again? Did He resurrect? Did He defeat death? Was He a sinless human being? Because who Jesus was is God manifested in the flesh, because He lived the life that we couldn't live. He lived a perfect life. He never sinned once. And then He died in order to restore us back to the Father, to God Himself, so that we could be with God forever, to be a part of His family forever. And that's the story of Jesus and Christianity, is that we do get to live forever. We get to be in God's presence forever, to be in His love, and get to experience that for all of eternity if we want it. But we can deny it and say that He didn't die for our sins, and we can deny it and say, no, I'm not going to choose God. I'm going to go my own way. And that ultimately is what hell will be. It will be the complete absence of God and all the good attributes that we get to experience here in life on this earth. All these good things that we see, there's a lot of evil too, right? But all that evil is caused by us. We're the ones hurting other people. It's not God. It's the free will of human beings going out and doing damaging things to others and living selfish lives. But God offers us this free gift through Jesus to be reconciled to Him. And this is what I ultimately want to tell you guys, is that this is really the truth. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to God the Father but through me. And this is the most important thing I could ever tell you. It's not farming or gardening or how to be healthier or how to be more free. Those are all wonderful things, but like I said, this life will pass away and you will die, and you will have to face God on Judgment Day at the end. And that's not to scare you or anything like that. It's to warn you. If you were going to jump out of a plane without a parachute, that'd be pretty scary. I'm telling you that there's a parachute that you can put on for free. It costs you nothing. You don't earn it. You just have to accept Jesus's free gift to you and trust in Him. And ultimately, you need to live a different life and pursue a righteous life. But pursuing righteousness isn't what gets you into heaven. We just do that out of our love and thankfulness for God's grace and what he's done for us. So I really wanted to share the message. This is called the gospel, the good news. And that's the good news. The bad news is that we are going to die because of the wages of sin is death. It's something that we've earned. It's not like God, God in the Bible it says that God wishes that no one perishes, but all should come to repentance through Jesus Christ. So God wants every single one of us, he loves us, to be with him forever. But he's not going to force you to be with him, just like you can't force a woman to love you. You tell this woman, oh, I love you. I'm just going to lock you in this door down in the basement here, and you're going to love me. Can you force her to love you? No. So he's not going to force anyone to be in heaven with him forever if they don't want to be. Okay, so that's how I want you to. I want you to understand. Like, so many people, I think, represent hell in a sort of an incorrect way. Yes, it is a place of punishment because we all are due that for our sin. But ultimately, he gave us a free way out of it. Only requires turning to him, and it's a choice, and he won't force us into it. So I won't go any further into all that. I know that this is the most important thing that I could tell you, that I've learned in my life, that I've personally experienced, that I've studied on a deep level, looking into the Bible, the evidence of the Bible, the philosophy and logic of it all, how it all makes sense. In the story of reality that we find ourselves, the Bible explains the story of the reality that we find ourselves in. So I'd recommend, if you've never read the Bible, to read the book of John. Just read the book of John, if nothing else. You will find out about who Jesus is, what he came to do. It's at least worth it to you can't consider yourself very well read or knowledgeable on things unless you've read some of the Bible. I mean, it is the most important book in my opinion, but if you just consider it, oh, it's just one of these, it's just another great spiritual teaching. If you haven't read that, I've read the Tao Te Ching, I've read some of the Quran, I've looked into other teachings as well to research them. So anyways, that's all I'll say about religious stuff, guys. I hope that you guys stuck with me through that. I know that's kind of hard to hear for a lot of people, but I just wanted to share my thoughts and feelings about these things. And ultimately, this is what led me out of my state of depression. The last couple of years, I was a Christian these last 2 years, but I found myself stuck in worldliness, I guess, and just trusting in myself more than God, and unwilling to give everything to God, because he wants our whole heart, our whole mind, everything. He wants it all, because ultimately following God is going to give you the best, most blessed life possible. It's not going to be easier. Jesus said your life's going to be harder following me, actually, not easier. As a lot of these prosperity gospel type preachers you might see on TV that say, oh, well, you're going to get a new car and a new house, that they're liars. That is not biblical or from the teachings of Jesus. So basically what I had to realize is I just need to surrender completely and trust in God for this next step in my life, which I'll describe now. So my wife and I had been pretty kind of stagnant the last couple of years, just like, we're doing the same thing every day. We're enjoying our life. We're enjoying growing food and gardening and doing all that fun stuff. But ultimately my wife really wanted to go back to be in Korea and go to other places in Asia, like we talked about 4 years ago. But all the anti-freedom stuff going on kept us from that, and ultimately I was a bit scared to leave too. Like, it's sort of the prepper homesteader mindset of I need to have everything in place so that no matter what happens, I'm going to be safe and I'm going to be okay. But I think God was trying to show me, and in the Bible it says if I care for the birds and feed them, like am I not going to feed you too? Am I not going to take care of you if this is just a little bird who I don't care about them as much as I care about you? So everything is going to be okay. So no matter what happens, I'm okay with it, I guess, whatever ends up happening in the future, which, those of us who are awake, it is a pretty uncertain future. It is pretty scary to think about what might happen in the next 10 years. Looking at where the culture of the West is going and the culture of the world and digital control and all these ideas. So here's where that leaves us. These woods that I'm walking around are near my parents' house, and we rented our house out for a year. My chickens stayed at the house. with the renters we found some really fantastic renters. And my sheep and Coe, I sold off all the babies, went from 26 sheep down to 11, 9 ewes, 2 rams, and they're at my friend who does the hay field for me. So he'll be haying the field. He'll get all the babies from my sheep that get born. And at the end of this year, I'll either take them back or sell. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this year. I'm kind of leaving that up to God and seeing where our life goes next. And what we're going to be doing is on June 19th, we're going to be flying into Tokyo. We're going to be going to Korea. And then after that, we're going to make some different decisions of where we go. But the Philippines, Taiwan, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and filming different farmers, homesteaders, and other people that are doing really interesting things in other countries that is mostly related to food. I might get into some other topics as well. So what I've done is I've created a brand new channel, and it's just called Stephen Cornett. I've put a link down below. So yeah, we're really excited about this upcoming trip, and it's gonna be pretty interesting. I don't know where I might end up or what will end up happening, but it's okay because I'm trusting in the Lord for what my future holds. I'm not gonna try to control my life constantly, and we still have our homestead. We didn't sell it, it's rented out. And you know, we've got dreams of possibly owning land, maybe in Asia somewhere. Maybe that would be possible someday. We don't know. But we're just excited to go out there and explore, and really to just bring you some content that nobody else is, that I think will really inspire you, teach you things that you haven't seen before. You know, I think there's endless videos that are on YouTube of America and homesteading in America, growing food, all these different techniques. But you know, what can we check out in other countries? And I'm going to be able to go see Yongsong Cho's new farm in Korea, the new Jadam farm. I'll be able to go film a video with him and show you guys that. I mean, and I've got a lot of other videos already lined up that I've talked with people in other countries. So if you have any suggestions of people I should visit, comment here or send me an email, steven@naturesalwaysright.com, and I'd be happy to interact with you guys on email there. If you have suggestions for people that you want me to go meet up with in Asia, the next year we're going to be in Asia, and that's it. But when I come back to America, I want to film with some more people here, of course. Maybe we'll get down to Australia or New Zealand at some point. And I don't know. I just don't know. So pray for me if you are a believer. I would really appreciate your prayers. I'll be praying for all of you in America as we go into a very, very uncertain and interesting time in the U.S.'s history. So no matter what happens, just trust in God, fear God only, do not fear man or whatever is going to happen here on the earth. If you know the Lord, we're already safe. He's already won the battle. Everyone says that who's going to save us? You know, Trump's going to save us, Biden's going to save us, whatever. No. Jesus is going to save us. There's no man, not you, even yourself, can save yourself. You can't control the world and what's going to happen. And even if you're the most prepper, off-grid, everything in the world, your whole system could fall apart and you'll have nothing. That's still possible. Okay, so nothing is in your control totally. Okay, so that's why we have to put our trust in God alone and move forward. So that's what I'd recommend all of you do, and keep growing food, learn to raise animals. I think that's the key to getting through the next few years here, is focusing on animal-based agriculture, not only for the fertility, but for the food. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you on the Stephen Cornett channel soon.